Tonight, residents react as 2 more Ontario hospitals are forced to reduce urgent care services.
That you need it should be 24 hours a day, no stopping anytime. Help the people.
What the province is saying as hospitals in smaller communities brace for the impact of staffing challenges.
It was a deeply traumatizing experience. It almost brought me to quit.
And to deter increasingly abusive behavior towards referees, we'll tell you about the extraordinary new play from Ontario Soccer.
We're so happy with the number of people that have come out. There's over 10,000 riders.
Plus a strong showing as cyclists take over Toronto's downtown highways. We'll fill you in on their multi-million-dollar fundraising goal to support brain health research.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first there's some developing news to tell you about southwest of Ottawa. The OPP is warning a community may need to be evacuated due to a forest fire that is out of control. We have pictures of what it looked like just a few hours ago. These images were posted to social media, reportedly showing the fire at Centennial Lake in Madawaska Township. Ontario's Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry says the fire broke out around 5:30 this evening, and the mayor says only a few homes and a trailer park make up the affected area where people may need to flee. But he says he was there late this evening and people were helping each other, sharing food and water as well. All right, let's get Sophia in the mix now because this latest forest fire is just one of dozens actively burning across the province. At last check, some 46 fires in the northeast and northwest parts of Ontario. Sophia, some hot and dry weather really fueling these fires, hey?
Yeah, we're seeing these fires spring up at a really alarming rate. Extreme drought conditions and a ton of cold fronts coming through that are very dry and moisture starved, which means a lot more lightning that could potentially perpetuate more fires, especially in the next 24 hours. Look at that fire that we talked about just outside of Calabogie. We actually saw it start up on satellite just a couple short hours ago. And I want to show you not only the fire scene from satellite, but this is smoke, low-level smoke. And for many of you as far south as even southwestern Ontario, this is going to become a real deal over the next few days, not just the cute sunrises and sunsets that we saw from the Alberta smoky skies, but we're talking anybody susceptible to any kind of respiratory issues is going to find the next few days very difficult to be out and about. You want to watch for any of those signs and symptoms. Extremely dry conditions, no rain in sight. Here's the scene as hundreds of lightning strikes took place on Thursday, creating hundreds of active fires in Quebec. Similar situation for many in northeastern Ontario. Look at that, the visibility just decreasing exponentially as that low-level smoke only actually picking up as fog almost on some of our forecast conditions here, and that's how dense this smoke will be for many. And here's just a quick tidbit. That smoke traveling from some of the Ontario and Quebec fires will be seen and felt as far as the deep south in Nashville and Memphis, Tennessee over the next 36 hours. So quite the situation that's going to hit home for many, Chris.
Yeah, just stunning and such a wild situation in so many parts of Canada. Thank you so much, Sophia.
You're welcome. See you soon.
And I want to take you to Quebec now, where more than 150 active wildfires are burning across that province. Nearly 14,000 people have been forced out of their homes. And Quebec's fire authority says right now it can't get all the fires under control. CBC's Kwabena Oduro has the latest on the out-of-control situation there.
Smoke is hanging over western Quebec. About half of the province's wildfires are in the Abitibi-Témiscamingue region, which borders Ontario. Its largest city, Val-d'Or, is one of the most threatened areas. In nearby Lac-Simon, residents are trying to find a place to shelter. Yesterday it was pretty quiet, he says, but all of a sudden it got out of hand. Then the whole village evacuated. Another major hotspot is the North Shore, where thousands of people, including some acute care hospital patients, have already been forced to flee. The city of Sept-Îles has extended its state of emergency for another 5 days. The mayor said he doesn't want people returning home, only to evacuate again. Some area residents say it's hard to breathe.
You could tell that, you know, the particles in the air or whatever, and you could feel it in your throat, in your chest. So, you know, you had to keep outside activity to a minimum. And you could see the smoke quite visibly.
Access to forests is being limited over fears new fires could be started. That will also make fighting those that are burning easier. Quebec's public security minister says resources are stretched thin, so efforts are being focused on the highest priorities.
We want to protect our infrastructure like Hydro-Quebec. We want to protect life. We want to protect houses.
The province will be training auxiliary firefighters in the coming days. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces are already on the ground, with more firefighting resources to come.
There's 100 soldiers that will be formed today, and they will be able to fight these fires with the subfur tonight or maybe tomorrow night.
Everyone is watching the weather closely. Cooler temperatures and rain are in the forecast for the North Shore, but none is expected in the Abitibi-Témiscamingue region for several days. Cubino Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
A bit of good news tonight in the firefight in Nova Scotia. Rain is bringing relief from the wildfires that ignited there. Now, the rain dampening the fires that were threatening Halifax, and officials have now declared that situation under control. Across Nova Scotia, there are still 5 fires burning. The largest is the one in the south that's forced almost 7,000 people from their homes. And despite the rain, it actually grew over this weekend. Back in Ontario to another major problem plaguing our province, the ongoing strain of the healthcare system. 2 urgent care centres in the Niagara region are the latest to face reductions in services. Clara Pasica went to find out how people there are handling the news.
Douglas Memorial Hospital Urgent Care in Fort Erie is in for a change, and it's not one those in Niagara are welcoming. As of July 5th, this urgent care centre here in Fort Erie and another in nearby Port Cobourn will only be open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day.
And it should be 24 hours a day, no stopping anytime. Help the people. They shouldn't be sitting in street corners and waiting to get in.
I don't like it. I don't even like the fact that it became an urgent care place. I lived in Port Cobourn all my life. Both my parents passed away in that hospital, and both my children were born in that hospital, so it means a lot to me.
Niagara Health CEO says cutting urgent care centre hours was decided as a solution to deal with the physician staffing strain in emergency rooms.
The unavoidable truth is we can't operate our urgent care centres at full capacity and maintain our emergency departments. This understaffing not only compromises our ability to effectively run our emergency departments, it also risks patient safety, and we simply won't do that. So we are taking steps to protect the core of the care we deliver, our emergency departments, while retaining some capacity in our urgent care centres. Effective July the 5th, our urgent care centres will operate from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
The Registered Nurses Association says hospital closures and service reductions are not the right move.
If it's a shortage of doctors, bring nurse practitioners. Nurse practitioners can treat, admit, diagnose people into hospitals, both in emergency rooms and to units. Nurse practitioners can also do primary care independently. So build a system rather than saying give up and close even for a few hours. Build the solutions, because that will attract more health professionals to those communities instead of you start to close.
The overnight closures announced in Niagara are one of many last resort solutions underway as regions across the province face the same type of staffing shortages. The province says it's doing what it can to tackle the issue, including offering free tuition to nurses if they stay and practice in the regions they studied in, and making it easier for nurses from outside the province to practice here. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Fort Erie, Ontario.
An extraordinary step to tell you about tonight that could be coming to a soccer pitch near you this summer. Ontario Soccer says it is piloting body-worn cameras on its referees. As Tyler Cheese reports, it's a step the soccer organization says might help deter an alarming increase of abuse towards refs.
I was 19 at the time. It was a challenging match, lots of controversial decisions, very, very physical.
Adrian Tangela started refereeing when he was 15. In the 6 years since, he says he's faced harassment and even threats.
As I'm walking to the car, I'm being followed and told that this is my fault, and it was a deeply traumatizing experience. It almost brought me to quit.
According to Ontario Soccer, this behavior has long been a problem but has increased since the pandemic.
We've seen escalation in behavior coming from coaches, coming from spectators, parents, fans, And we've seen officials being physically abused and in some cases, verbally abused and physically abused as well.
Ontario Soccer's CEO says it's become more difficult to keep refs on the pitch with around 50% fewer registrations than they had pre-pandemic.
So we started to do some surveying, and through that surveying, we found out that one of the number one reasons by far was referee abuse.
That's led to the body camera pilot project, which will roll out across the under 9 and under 11 divisions.
I think it's a great idea, actually. They definitely take on a lot of comments and abuse from the parents from the sideline. And I have seen some parents get kicked out of a game, not agreeing with the call they've made, and just arguing, and and that is what leads to a parent being kicked off a field.
Tangela says the cameras are a great first step, but wants more to be done to remind people that refs are doing their best.
So we need to start that conversation and really get people convinced that referees are on their team. Referees are not this third-party other. They are all here to create an environment that's positive and rewarding for the kids.
Ontario Soccer also wants to remind people that many referees are under 18 years old themselves.
But just remember, the referees are developing just like the players are. They're not perfect. They're trained. The players aren't perfect either. They make mistakes. The coaches aren't perfect. The whole idea, it's sport. You're supposed to sit back and enjoy it, and it's what bonds communities.
The cameras will be used at some matches starting in July. Tyler Cheese, CBC News.
Welcome back. We are now only 3 weeks away from Toronto's mayoral by-election, and a significant development this week for voters: advanced polls opening this Thursday. Marivel Tarouk spoke with our municipal affairs reporter Sean Jeffords about how the election campaign is shaping up.
So, Sean, campaign advertising is kicking into high gear now. What is it that we're going to see?
Well, we've started to see signs pop up around the city, and that's a big part of this air war that we're going to start to see over the next couple of weeks, where campaigns really intensified their direct outreach to voters. They're really trying to break through and make an impact. The campaign has been on for 2 months, but I think people are just starting to really tune in, and the way they will do that is they'll start to see these signs. And you can measure some things about campaigns and their strength based on those signs. It's a bit anecdotal, but it's there.
In terms of the reliability of polling and what to believe to the extent to which we can, how does that sort of almost dictate the race and these strategies?
It can go a lot of different ways, but I think the main takeaway that I would say, and the experts that I spoke with this week about the reliability of the polling, would suggest that you take it all up with a grain of salt. I mean, the polling methodology, there's some question about the way that these Toronto polls are being conducted. So they're being done with IVR, so that's interactive voice response. It's a robocall, essentially.
Okay.
And I know, you get a robocall on your phone, it comes up, it's pretty obvious, sometimes it's filtered out, or you don't answer it. So what that means is that you may not, if you're a pollster, get a sample size that reflects Toronto. In particular, CBC's research department tells me that they're concerned that these IVR polls don't reach young voters. They're a little more sophisticated, they may not pick up the phone when a robocall comes through.
How much of a concern is it that these then become self-fulfilling prophecies, methodology aside?
It's such a good point. And the pollsters, the experts would say, look at the polls, look at how they're weighted, dig into the data if you have the time, and look at where they're drawing their samples from. Are they polling the full city? Are they polling all the demographics that you would want to see in these polls? Are they getting young people? Are they getting older people? Are they reaching people in Scarborough or North York? But the campaigns are concerned, I would say. One of the really interesting findings from the experts that I spoke with was this actually could have a suppressing vote or a suppressing effect on Olivia Chow's campaign. It's a bit counterintuitive. You would think, well, people look at the front runner and, well, of course, that's how the vote's going to turn out. In some instances, it actually could work to suppress the vote. It could make her voters complacent. They might look at it and say, well, she's got such a big lead, I don't have to go out and cast a ballot on June 26th. I'm really busy. So the main takeaway, I think, is that this is actually really up in the air. There's going to be potentially a smaller voter turnout because it's a by-election, which means the margins could be tight, which means every vote is going to count. So I would say ignore the polls. You've got to get out and vote.
Which is a perfect thing, I think, to leave our conversation on every vote counts, so go out and do it.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Marivel.
Yeah, vote, vote, vote. And starting this week, you can do so. Now, if you're keen to learn more about how the top 6 candidates' visions compare on key issues from housing to transit and public safety, we've put together an interactive feature on our website where you can see some of the promises and platforms. You can head over to cbc.ca/Toronto for all that. People gathering today at Ontario Place to protest a new closure at the tourist destination. Okay, so this was the scene today, but earlier this week, residents were surprised with fences blocking off access to the West Island. Today's event was put on by a group called Ontario Place for All, who says the closure was poorly communicated to the public and the park users. They want the provincial government to take the barricades down. Today's demonstration is just the latest amid ongoing fallout from the Ford government's controversial decision to redevelop the area.
There's a lot of little girls out there watching and seeing what their future has and that there isn't no bounds, no limits.
Shooting for more than just bragging rights. After the break, we'll take you courtside as the first ever paid women's basketball league in Canada gets back in action. And this The Denver Nuggets lost Game 2 of the NBA Finals tonight, but if they go on to win the championship, expect some loud cheering in Kitchener. That is the hometown of star Jamal Murray, and Travis Stanraj visited Kitchener to find out how the community is rallying behind him.
From the pub,
we're all so proud of you. Good luck, dude.
To the streets, and the court where he once shot hoops.
Yeah, go Murray! Woo!
The kid from Kitchener seems to be the only thing on this city's mind right now.
I'm so proud to be from Kitchener, my hometown. Like, I'm so impressed. It's a crazy feeling. It's so good.
He's on the main stage and he's killing it, and definitely makes me really proud.
Jokic to Murray. Murray, good luck for 3, puts it in.
26-year-old NBA superstar Jamal Murray has been called a prodigy. He started playing at just 3. By 12, he was taking on high school and college players.
When I first met him, he was kind of making me reimagine what's possible.
During his formative years at Orangeville Hoops Academy, Murray opted to do something most teenagers would dread: give up his phone to focus on the game.
He came in with such a dedication and tenacity that I had never seen before.
The Denver Nuggets select Jamal Murray.
In 2016, the big leagues came calling.
He's got a little bit of that Kobe DNA, and it's so it's a little bit surprising that he's elevated like this, only because the spotlight has been in other places.
Despite the meteoric rise, the fame, the accolades, home is never far from mind.
Just excited for that town. Be back there in the summer, see my friends and family.
Whatever the outcome of the NBA championship, here in Kitchener, Murray will remain king, an inspiration to so many to never give up and dream big. Travis Stanraj, CBC News, Kitchener.
Canada's first paid women's basketball league is back. Hoop Queens is kicking off its 2nd season today.
Going into the 2nd year, it feels so surreal. You know, a lot more people are paying attention. A lot more people are buying into the idea. We want to show the world that, you know, Canada has a market here.
Hoop Queens Summer League will play games every Sunday afternoon until July 2nd. 4 teams made up of 10 players each will participate over the 5 weeks. 8 of the 10 players will be paid $200 per game, and the founder says their goal is to provide opportunities for girls and women to be successful on and off the court. It was a rougher than normal drive today around Toronto, with both the Gardiner and the DVP shut down from 2 a.m. until 4 this afternoon, but it was all for a great cause. Thousands of cyclists taking part in the 2nd annual Bike for Brain Health. The event raises money and awareness to help defeat dementia. Take a look at some of the action today.
This is a great event. We're so happy with the number of people that have come out. There's over 10,000 riders. We're going to raise about $5 million in order to defeat dementia, and with all the proceeds going to Baycrest. We have 25 kilometer, 50 kilometer, and 75 kilometer, all the way from Lakeshore all the way up to DVP and back again.
Got thousands of people here raising money for Baycrest, Bike for Brain. It's the second year doing this, and everyone's having a ton of fun for a really important cause.
So it's a beautiful day. The weather couldn't have been better. Lots of people out on the road. We all had a great time doing different distances, and it's just getting busier as the day goes on.
Sophia, that last dad just nailed it. What a beautiful day out there for a bike ride.
Yeah, and what a vantage point, right? Like, when else are you going to be able to do that?
Incredible.
And it was a beautiful day. You're going to want to monitor any outdoor activity going forward this next week, especially if you have any respiratory illnesses or are prone to any respiratory issues. A poignant image here looking at satellite imagery. I know we talked about fires a little earlier, but I wanted to start off with it as well as we get into this next forecast. Fires burning not only in Quebec and Ontario, but a record-breaking season in Alberta and Nova Scotia, and soon to be Quebec as well. Over 100 fires that started just on Thursday alone. That's more than really the last 10 years combined. And then to add to this, the wind direction shift, and we here in parts of southern Ontario especially are going to be choked out with horrendous air quality, special air quality statements and smog warnings. Close to Ottawa, the special air quality statements as far south as Huntsville, Peterborough, Parry Sound. It's on your doorstep in Orillia and Oshawa and Barrie, and it's probably going to continue to travel further to the south this upcoming week. Look at this, just over a few hours, your current visibility went from 14 to 8 kilometers in places like the Muskokas, similar conditions in Peterborough, haze, smog, that fine particulate matter. We're going to be talking a lot about it for this upcoming week ahead for really everybody in southern Ontario. And if you're concerned about the fire situation, there is a dry cold front coming through on Monday afternoon with lightning that potentially could spark up more storms. Not a lot of rain though. Look at all the dry area here, rain bookending it on other sides of the province. Also very dry for any of you gardeners out there, but generally it's a very pleasant week when it comes to forecast conditions and temperatures. Really pleasant. Lows into your mornings that will be into the low teens, and daytime highs in the mid-20s with not a lot of humidity. So great to enjoy in small spurts, Chris.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Sophia.
You're welcome. See you soon.
And thank you for watching tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow night at 6 right here on CBC TV. Have a great night, everyone.